What up, what up, what up? What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to the Cash Money Podcast with Coleman Thomason, where we cover all things DFS. And in today's episode, the 2021 Honda Classic Betting Picks and Preview Show. But before we get into today's episode, just a few things. Congrats to those who were with me and bet Justin Thomas last week at the Players. What a weekend he had, starting off with the huge run of birdies on Moving Day Saturday, then seemingly not missing a fairway or green on Sunday. I really think he should have won by 4 to 5 shots, but nonetheless, we are cashing. But in all seriousness, it was amazing to watch. Such a historic performance from one of the best players in the world. The coverage of the Players was absolutely amazing with the group by group. You can watch every single shot. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Congrats to Justin Thomas, and congrats to you if you cashed. Soak it in, enjoy it. It's hard to hit winners on the PGA, and you did that. Congratulations. Next, just a few reminders. If you're listening to this episode on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, please download. This is the most helpful thing you can do for me. It's also the easiest way for me to gauge who's listening and grow the pod. If you're listening on the Cash Money Podcast YouTube channel, please like and subscribe. Again, it is greatly appreciated. And on that note, let's get into the Honda Classic. So the 2021 Honda Classic takes place at PGA Nationals Champion Course in Palm Beach Garden, Florida. It's one of the hardest courses that will be played on the PGA Tour season, compares to Bay Hill and Muirfield Village. The course will play as a par 70, 7,140 yards on Bermuda grass greens, where water will be in play on 15 out of 18 holes. Since this is a par 70, there's only 2 par 5s, which makes one of the key stats par 4 scoring, as there will be 2 extra compared to the standard par 72. Another key stat to look at is strokes gained approach. You'll hear me talk about both of these throughout the episode. The defending champion of this event is Sungjae Im, who finished at 6 under par in 2020. So if you like tough golf courses where players have to grind it out, you're going to love this event. Unfortunately, the Honda Classic does fall into a portion of the season where big name guys are taking the week off, but there are still a few names worth mentioning. Someone is going to have to win. We're going to hit the winner, so let's get right into it. Again, I'm not going to go over every player in the field, but I am going to touch on the players that I think are notable. We'll start at the top. Daniel Berger at 10 to 1, Sungjae Im at 12 to 1, Joaquin Niemann at 16 to 1. Those are the 3 favorites. Those are the best 3 players in the field. I talked about it a little bit last week, but I don't like betting sub 20 to 1 odds. If I were to make an exception in this range, I would prefer Joaquin Niemann at 16 to 1. I think he's a guy who excels when the conditions are tough, and he's arguably the best player in this event. I won't be going there this week, but I don't mind Joaquin Niemann at 16 to 1. Moving down the board, Lee Westwood at 20 to 1. Wow. What else can you really say about the guy? He showed up the last 2 weekends. He's put on an absolute show in both of them. Why not bet him at this point? His game's there. We've seen it. The guy doesn't miss putts. He might be due at this point. If the number moves at all, if it goes to 25 to 1, if it goes to 30 to 1, I will be placing a bet on Lee Westwood. As of right now, I am a little hesitant to make it at 20 to 1, but if it moves, I may pull the trigger. Russell Henley at 28 to 1. He's a player who relies heavily on his approach game. He's one of the best players in that aspect in the field. I don't mind Russ at 28 to 1. Taylor Gooch has moved up to 28 to 1. I previously saw him at 33 to 1 this morning. But Taylor Gooch at 28 to 1. He finished top 5 last week. He was playing very well on Sunday. This field's wide open. Why not Taylor Gooch? Taylor Gooch at 28 to 1 is definitely a viable bet. I will mention 3 notable players did withdraw today. They were all in this range. That's why I'm putting it at this part of the pod. First was Brian Harman. Second was Gary Woodland. Third was Sam Burns. It's actually unfortunate because I like 2 of those guys, but they have withdrawn. Do not play them in your DraftKings lineup. Do not bet those guys. Moving down, we come across a guy I do like this week. Brendan Steele at 40 to 1. In his last 5 appearances at the Honda Classic, Brendan Steele has made 4 out of 5 cuts. In those 4 cuts that he's made, he's finished top 15 in each. He's very viable this week. He's a guy who shows up at these weaker field events and always plays well. I really like Brendan Steele at 40 to 1. Cam Davis at 40 to 1, the Aussie. He's a guy who I often play in DraftKings just because of the ability to birdie. He's a guy who's going to make a lot of birdies, but he's also going to make a lot of bogeys. The event's wide open. Again, I'm going to say it. The event is wide open. Cam Davis has the ability to come out here and score. He can absolutely win this event. 40-1 is a good number for Cam Davis. Moving on to Byung-Hun An, Mr. Ben An, as I'm going to call him. He's at 50-1. I did make a bet on Ben An at 80-1 this morning. I still don't mind the 50-1 number. He's made the cut here in his last 3 appearances, 2 of those being top 5 finishes. He didn't play bad last week at the Players, besides making an 11 or 12, whatever he made on number 17 on Thursday. He strikes the ball very well as anyone in this field, and he's dangerous if he starts rolling some putts. I love Ben An this week. I got him at 80, get him at 50. That number's going to keep decreasing. Next we have Doug Ghim at 50-1. The kid out of Texas played his heart out last week at the Players. He was amazing, but we saw on Sunday that he will spray the ball, he will get into trouble, and I don't think he is in a place where he can win a big event. I'm a big Doug Ghim fan after last week, but I'm going to avoid the Ghim Reaper this week. Moving on to Keegan Bradley at 50-1. He's been playing ridiculously good recently, a great approach player, kind of like Ben An, a guy who needs to make some putts to really take his game to the next level. I really like Keegan this week, solely for the purpose of recent form. 29th at the Players, 10th at the Arnold Palmer Invitational, and then a few weeks back, 22nd at the Waste Management. He's really been hitting the ball well. I'm going to bet him due to that reason. Keegan Bradley at 50-1. Chez Reavie at 66-1. I saw Chez at 100-1 this morning. I played him last week in DraftKings. I knew he hit the ball well. I went ahead and bet Chez at 100-1. He missed the cut last week at the Players, but it was solely because he couldn't make a putt. He putted terrible. He lost strokes putting. He actually struck the ball well, as I said, and he's a guy who's going to avoid trouble. He's going to grind out a few pars. He's going to make his few birdies. I'm behind Chez at 100-1. I think this number is going to decrease as well. It's at 66 right now. I could see this getting down to 40 in all reality. So I'm on Chez this week. Go Chez. KH Lee is right below Chez on the betting board at 66-1. He made the cut last week at the Players, finished in 41st. He's viable this week at 66-1. Wyndham Clark is also at 66-1. He's never finished outside of 11th place at this event. He hits it a long way. I think Wyndham Clark's interesting at 66-1. Brandon Wu at 80-1, the stud out of Stanford. He's been absolutely killing it on the Korn Ferry Tour. Finished 7th at the Puerto Rico Open in his last event. You can go to Brandon Wu at 80-1. Henrik Norlander, one of my favorite players on the tour at 80-1. His game hasn't been great lately, but maybe he turns it around at the Honda. You can do worse than Henrik Norlander at 80. I personally won't be losing my money on him again like I do every single week, but let it fly, you never know. A couple more guys down here in the triple figures, 100-1, Phil Mickelson. Why not bet the lefty? He's a fun guy to root for. He's going to keep it exciting. Phil Mickelson at 100-1 is not bad. Richie Werenski also at 100-1. He finished 4th at the Arnold Palmer Invitational. He's a guy who also, like Brennan Steele, he plays well in these events where it isn't the greatest field. You can definitely go there at 100-1. Same for Tom Hoge. He showed some signs last week at 100-1. I think there's value with him. He's always a guy who can make a run. And the last guy I'm going to mention is Mr. Sepp Straka at 150-1. He hits the long irons very well. And at this course, that's very beneficial. I think 150-1 for a player of Sepp Straka's skill level is a little too high. Again, I won't be going there, but you can take a shot if you want to. So as always, to summarize, my current bets starting off: Keegan Bradley 50-1, Ben An 80-1, and Chez Reavie I got at a great number, 100-1. I may make one more bet depending on Lee Westwood. I also have a lean for Russell Henley, or I might just wait until the tournament kicks off and make a live bet. I will have a full betting card on Twitter on Tuesday. Feel free to follow at the Cash Money Pod. And that's going to conclude today's episode for the 2021 Honda Classic. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed the episode and are watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, please subscribe and rate. And don't forget to download. For updates and news, again, follow my Twitter at the Cash Money Pod, conveniently linked in the description. Thank you again for listening. Be cool, and I'll see everyone on the next one.